And I chose this because I really like this slide where he talks about the entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. So when I think about change, I think about opportunity. And basically that's what you all embodied in what you said when you said growth, when you said new locations, and all the different aspects that you pointed out of change, all positive. Another Peter Drucker quote that I love is that people who don't take risks, on average, fail about twice a year. People who do take risks, on average, fail about twice a year. So let's talk a little bit about why we're talking about opportunity assessment today. You're all entrepreneurs already. You all have done an opportunity assessment. You all have an idea, even if you're very early stages in your business. So why do we think we're talking about opportunity assessment today? Anybody reading here? Why do you think we're talking about opportunity assessment today when you already have ideas?
Gap analysis, something which is not there in the market and you can provide it, so that is what the opportunity is.
Gap analysis, that's a great one. What else? Why else are we talking about opportunity assessment?
What we have decided for us, is it right or wrong? To analyze it.
Good one. Is your idea right or wrong?
Is there a blind spot in an opportunity that we haven't seen because we are so passionate about what we are?
Oh, blind spot in the opportunity. That's a really good one. And maybe as you all talk about your elevator pitches and tell one another about your business models, you can all help each other out with that and say, are you thinking about this? Or are you thinking about that? Why else? Why else do you think it's important to talk about opportunity?
Need analysis, the need assessment.
Need assessment, that's right. Who else?
You can prepare for getting to the opportunity, maybe put up a target, plan it out and take an action on it.
Because if there is no
Looking for new avenues.
Absolutely right. If there's no opportunity, how do you offer the solution? What else?
It also helps you to looking for new avenues.
What'd you say?
To help in a business growth.
Yes, to help in business growth. That's right. That's right. So there are many different reasons why it's important to talk about opportunity. Has anyone ever heard of Brian Acton? Who knows who Brian Acton is? Maybe not too many people in technology here. So Brian Acton is the founder of WhatsApp. Who knows WhatsApp? Everybody knows WhatsApp, right? So Brian Acton sold WhatsApp to Facebook for $17 billion. 5 years before he sold WhatsApp to Facebook for $17 billion, he was turned down for a job at Facebook. And so one of the reasons why we're talking about opportunity assessment is because on average it takes an entrepreneur, this is on average, so many people take much longer, some people hit it out of the park the first time. How many people is this your first entrepreneurial venture? First idea you've ever had? It's a lot. How many people it's their second big idea? Couple?
I would say first and second. The reason being, I failed in my first venture. So again, so I couldn't materialize what I wanted to do, and then I kind of, found an opportunity again in my failed idea, and kind of derived.
Yeah. Right. So you built upon your original idea.
Just modifying your ideas according to the situations as and when it comes.
Absolutely. What else? Who's on their third or fourth idea? Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Third idea. First one is I was running a small cyber cafe because that time internet is not very popular in India. Everyone go to the any center and use internet. Second one is mobile selling.
Completely different.
Completely different.
Wow.
And third one is the system integration of electronic security.
Wow. So now that you've been...
according to the market need, I will change my business.
Very smart, very smart. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but very smart. On average, I think the statistic is 3.8 times, 4 times that it takes you to launch a successful business. Anyone ever heard of Virgin Cola? So this is one of Richard Branson of Virgin Company's business venture. He has founded more than 400 companies. 400 companies. And only a fraction of them have succeeded. And Virgin Cola was one of the ones that failed, and failed miserably. And you think about it, how could that possibly fail? Because he could have the cola on all of the flights. So he basically was his own distributor, right? So how can you fail when you can, you're your own customer, basically. But it failed spectacularly. And as a serial entrepreneur, he just kept going and going and going and going, and now he's going to take people to space. So it's very common to fail at your first idea, your second idea, your third idea, your fourth idea, or even your 15th idea. But now that you've all been bit by the entrepreneurial bug, or there's a great book that I love called The E-Myth, and the author talks about being struck by an entrepreneurial seizure. Who's been struck by an entrepreneurial seizure? Where you're walking down the street one day, or you're sitting at your desk working for someone else, and all of a sudden you have this feeling, and you know you have to leave what you're doing and start your own thing. Someone talked about, they knew that working, in a big company or was not for them, or going to get a job wasn't for them. And, it's very common to people who are entrepreneurs that all of a sudden they just have this feeling in the pit of their chest one day, and you just feel absolutely compelled to be an entrepreneur. How many people have had that experience? And probably others a little bit more gradual. Maybe you saw an opportunity in the marketplace, and you had an idea, or you were talking to a friend, or you were at a networking event like this. So now that you've been, go ahead.
I have a question. Suppose you don't have an entrepreneur idea, but you're forced to be an entrepreneur.
You don't have an idea, but you're forced to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. And
well,
then, do you think that entrepreneur can actually do good, or can that entrepreneurship be built into it, or it's just like a matter of time?
I think what's important, if you if you don't feel like you have some of the core qualities that you need to be an entrepreneur, and everybody's definition of an entrepreneur is different, right? And we talked about that a little bit earlier. It's important to recognize where your weaknesses are and to surround yourself with people who can supplement those weaknesses. So I'm an introvert. I hate sales. I hate cold calling. I've done it in my career, and I think it's something that everyone should do at one point in their career, because it really gives you a feel for how difficult it is to sell and to talk about your product. But sales is not an area of strength for me. So I make sure that I surround myself with people that are really great salespeople. Operations was a strength for me. Started my career in operations and project management and digital marketing early in my career, a degree in finance. So operations and finance are an area where I'm particularly strong. Sales, not so much. So it's important to surround yourself with people who are strong in those areas where you're not strong. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you didn't have some core skill set or some passion for what you're doing. So take your passion, make sure you're spending your time on the things that fuel your passion, and surround yourself with the types of people that can shore up the areas where you're weak. Because if you're trying to take on qualities that you don't have or that aren't part of the things you enjoy doing, you won't stick with it, you won't be successful. So that would be my advice. Any other questions about that? So you'll probably have many different ideas throughout your entrepreneurial experience now that you've had your entrepreneurial seizure. There are many different sources of ideas. So I'm sorry, I have Mary Kay Ash up there twice. I didn't meant to replace her. And actually, a good point on what you just said. So not everyone even has an idea. Sometimes entrepreneurs are grown of implementing other people's ideas. So Mary Kay Ash is a good example of that. I'm forgetting her name, but the founder of Camp Bow Wow is another good example of that. She saw a market opportunity. And both of those women are examples of women who created businesses, who had an idea, who also wanted to create opportunities for other women to grow their own businesses. So many women around the globe, are selling Mary Kay or being Camp Bow Wow franchise owners. In fact, I met one recently, incredibly passionate about what she does. So she didn't have the idea to start it, but she has a franchise now, and she's about to open her 4th franchise. So you don't even necessarily have to be the one that has the idea. You may just need to recognize that there's a need for that idea in your particular market and basically have the guts to go for it. I'm going to ask Holly to talk a little bit about the macroeconomic and market forces, since she's got a front row seat to that, and then I'll cover some of the other ones.
Yeah, well, what you made me actually just think of is ideas from other cities, other states, other countries. So there are actually things to think about when you're doing your research and seeing where things are happening in another place, or it makes sense for you. When you talk about the bike riding, it reminds me there's a big initiative in the States right now around shared cycles and biking in general, and so it just makes me think that there are things that you should be looking at what we're doing. It may be horrible, but or it might be a great idea. So some of it's cross-cultural, global pollination of different kinds of ideas and seeing what is happening in different places. I'm sorry?
We borrow ideas.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then in terms of trends, so what's happening in the economy in terms of interest rates and funding and capital that make timing better or worse at sometimes to become an entrepreneur. So when the capital markets are more flowing in terms of early stage ventures, it might be more appealing to promote your idea or to start your idea when it might be more likely that you'll get funding. You know, when you have the idea and the timing of funding, all that, those things aren't always easy to predict, but sometimes getting a better sense for what's happening on a macro economic level makes it easier to understand where the ideas might make more sense, where the funding's happening in what particular sectors, what companies are getting the most press, the best press, the worst press, will also dictate how easy or not easy it might be to get funding in particular sectors as well.
There's a lot of money in the market right now sitting on the sidelines too, right, waiting for the right investment. Interest rates are low. There's, at least in the U.S., it's a very favorable environment right now for business, in India as well. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that and the opportunity there and what are the forces that are, because that's less my expertise of what's happening in India that's creating a great environment.
This is the best time ever to be a startup in India. All of you know that. I am not a government official, trust me, but still the way the government used to function a few years ago and the way it's functioning now, whether it's a central or the state governments, they're more proactive towards startups. I would even call them SMEs as well. See, there are so many policies, we just need to go. We are actually trying to rope in somebody tomorrow or day after from the government to come and speak a little bit about policies available for funding or other support system in Rajasthan per se. In India per se, everybody knows, right? See, just go to Startup India portal or any other such allied things, you will find. And the good, interesting part is VCs. Suddenly, there is a boom of VCs in India for the last 1 year, since 2016. Lot of venture capitalists are around, lot of angels are around who have parked themselves in India for good companies to invest in, and they keep telling me day in day out, we don't find good companies. Sometimes the idea is good, but the entrepreneur is not, or the entrepreneur doesn't have the actual focus or the skills to scale it up. So sometimes the entrepreneur is very passionate, very good, but the idea doesn't have, it's not a saleable idea. That's what we were telling, right? Opportunity recognition. Some opportunity that guy recognizes and comes, which the investor or the VC is not finding it appropriate enough to invest. There's a lot of money in India which is parked on the sidelines, which is waiting for good companies, good entrepreneurs to come up, dig it, to take it. Obviously, we get funded means it's loan. It's not that either you pay it as a payback or it's an equity or different types of repayment, but it is definitely repayment itself. But there are a lot of opportunities. I will also find some more links if you people are looking at. The first thing is, maybe today or tomorrow we'll put you into different sectors. As I was telling you, sector-specific funding is also there. Sector-specific, what you call, freebies are there, policies are there, which have been a little relaxed. Then we can work backwards towards.
Can you talk about the air background? Is everybody else hot in here? And all of a sudden it got really warm in here. I saw a couple of other people fanning themselves. I know we turned stuff off. Is anybody else warm? People started their business because of something completely unexpected. Something completely unexpected happened to you. So tell us your story and then I'll tell you one that I have.
Well, with me it happened like I was very much into job and belonged to a family where everybody was in a job. So business was never in a pipeline, and being a professional and being a woman and being into the Rajasthan market again was never crossed my mind that I have to be. But it so happened that I got into a job with my very first relative. He was also a professional lawyer, and I joined him assuming that I'll have a good life ahead being with him. And
so this is the person that forced you into entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree on that, because within 1 year I was like, I felt very caged. I felt like I'm suffocating. I used to have a very bad nights. I never used to sleep and all. So you can say a very bad boss syndrome, and because he was my first relative, so it was creating a very big drama in my family also, because if I say something, you know, it was used to boil down to a different level. So looking to all those things, I decided that, okay, let me leave him. And I did got an opportunity by a few more people that, okay, you come and join us. Like that time, my reputation in the market was good for being employed. But I felt that if I could not gel with this person, whom I knew for almost like 10 years, what is the possibility I'm going to gel with somebody else? And therefore, instead of me going into a job and starting with somebody else, better I start on my own in the what I want to do. And let's see where the destiny takes you.
Good
so
for
in
you.
my case, it was not a planned entrepreneurship.
Good for you.
It just happened.
That's
Yeah,
great.
Good for me.
And it's a good.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
God, there's a,
Yeah. I was working as a fashion designer for many brands. Then I did my double masters in Italy and studied. But I always felt that I don't know, I'm very balanced left brain and right brain. So I always had problems fitting into only creative part of any company. So when I was working as a designer, I would always be more interested in, okay, what's happening at management level, or what's accountant doing. I go to everyone's cabin and see what are all of you doing. So I always had that, I don't know, management side also very strong. So left and right, I mean, so I always found it
it's a
difficult.
powerful combination. That's
Yeah.
great.
So they say it's rare, but I don't like it. I wish I was like one side more, because then I could never fit into one role. So when I got my double masters, that's why I did my MBA also. I did, just because I had that hunger to do that. Otherwise, nobody in design field, they want to do MBA, right? But I just wanted to learn more. So I started my business so I could be involved in the management part, the creative part, both sides, finance part.
That's the great thing about having your own business, because you can pick whichever parts of the job that you love, and as I said before, surround yourself with the people that, maybe have strengths that you don't have. Yeah.
You just have to mold yourself in everything, and I think that's why now I'm proper, like making use of my brain, I think.
That's great. Good for you. I met this young woman at a conference a couple of weeks ago. I was at a women's leadership conference at Johnson & Johnson, and they had a young entrepreneur come talk about her business, and she spoke for 15 minutes, and she had everyone so captivated. She's from Israel. She was in the Israeli army as a combat medic for a couple of years, so she knew she wanted to do something related to the medical field. She didn't really want to be a physician, but she wanted to be in the medical field, when something very unexpected happened in her family. The first was a good thing. Her brother actually made it to the Olympics. He was an Olympic swimmer, and he was about to swim in his first Olympics. And her father and mother were about to board the plane to go see her brother swim in his first Olympics. And about an hour before they were set to board the plane, her father dropped dead from AFib, which is a heart condition, which many people who have this heart condition go on to live normal lives and they're perfectly fine. And the other 50% of the people who have this heart condition fall into a high-risk category. And whether or not you're in the high-risk category can change minute to minute. And it was in the newspaper and everything else that this has happened. So that inspired her to do research on AFib, and she came up with a new methodology. It's a wearable that uses pulse deficit to be able to detect whether or not you fall into a high-risk category. So the moment that you show the biosymptoms of falling into a high-risk category, you're notified. Your doctor can be notified. It uses IoT to be able to transmit that data. So she had something very unexpected happen to her, and that inspired in her a passion to solve this problem. And we'll talk a little bit later about the why of your story and why you do what you do and how important that is to selling your business and your product and your overall experience. So inspiration can come from almost anything. You have a story you want to share?
Yeah, so like I just talked about my failed startup. A few of my friends know about it. So beauty was something that I wanted to get into, and after having worked with corporates, getting into beauty business wasn't easy. Either people were not able to understand, or probably I wasn't able to explain it to them. So then of course I had to drop the idea. I was like, how is it that I can still, and because I worked quite some time for the beauty startup as well. So they thought of doing weddings, and I thought, if not this way, then this way. And of course, I already had experience in events. I thought weddings is one way through which if at all if I get beauty also as a solution, I utilize it productively and came up with them.
That's great. That's great. So how many people started their business because of a combination of several of these different factors and not just one? Anyone?
I think
Yeah.
so. I was doing law, and I really didn't want to do law, and it was all kind of, so it was kind of a illegal business, we can say. We started in third year. So what we used to do is we were good at writing because it was a theoretical field. So we used to outsource the assignments from the US and the Middle East students, and we have like 2-3 friends. We formed a company with the name of SAP Paper Corporation, and we used to take the assignments. We used to do it for $10 a page.
Wow.
And have a network of all those juniors who were having some finance problem, anything. We used to give it like a pocket money and so. So yeah, I was doing.
So
that.
customer preferences, market opportunity, microeconomic forces.
Like we did everything, and we were quite famous with teachers that we used to do. So we used to do thesis in sociology, maths, science, everything. I did diploma, like 8 diplomas in sociology myself, of other students. We used to get, that was the starting of the first business. We surely didn't want to continue because it was not right image in the society. So, but we earned a lot, so kind of, it
Wow,
was good.
great experience. I mean, and the truth is, many times, many of these factors combine to point you toward an opportunity, and I'm sure many of you have had that experience. You know, you can have a skill or a hobby or an interest, but maybe there's no market opportunity, or maybe the market conditions aren't right at that particular time. Some businesses will fail for that reason. So many, many different sources of opportunities, and thank you all for sharing some of your stories. You want to add something?
I want to add here that when we are doing the opportunity analysis and we are seeing where we are going, a lot of time, just because knowing where you're going, you may not be likely to take an action. Whereas, had you taken the action and not find out where you're going, you may have reached the right place. So, what is your say about the two different types of working?
Well, I think you always need to remain open to the idea going in a slightly different direction. But to me, and this is, I'll let Holly comment on this as well, because I mean this is personal to me. You know, it's driven through my own passion. So if you have, you know, if I have a passion for a particular thing, but the idea is going in a different area, I won't necessarily chase it in that other area. Now, if the market conditions are changing, if the opportunity, you know, if I've missed the window of opportunity, we'll talk about the window of opportunity in a minute. You know, it may, you know, if you don't have passion for kind of where the market is going, recognize that, and again, either surround yourself with people who do have a passion for that area.
How do you recognize passion? Because a lot of time, I have a feeling that we just don't see that this is a passion or this is like we just want to do it. It is more like we see it, we like it, and we go ahead with it. So how do you define that this is what I call a passion, and this is what I call, yeah, I like it, or I will like to do it, you know?
You know, I think that's a great question, and I'll share a personal story. I've been going through this for the past couple of years since I joined my business partner. I had my own agency, and I had a very strong passion for what my agency was all about. It was a small agency called Blue Flame Partners. And I had a belief system, and I, you know, set up my company in kind of my own image. I met my business partner, and she was looking to exit the business, and she had this business for 35 years, and she had her own vision. And, you know, frankly, I struggled for about 2 years to figure out how to, you know, can I adopt someone else's passion? Do I need to, you know, reignite my own passion? Do I need to come up with something new? And it was a process to go through. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about why I'm passionate about this business, why I joined my agency with her agency, why I think this business is important at this point in time. I talked to a lot of people in the business. I talked to our clients. And I had to kind of articulate for myself what my passion was in this new business venture, because the old business venture was done. And I was doing something new now. And so I decided if I could not, you know, if by the end of 3 years I didn't feel absolutely passionate and really have a good why and a reason why I'm doing this with this agency at this time with this business partner, that I was going to go start something new. And actually, I did come up with something recently. I've started to roll it out to the company, and people have you know, attached to it unbelievably. I've had more client meetings than I've ever had. My close rate has gone up to 60%. You know, so it's not to say that you can't be successful if you don't, you know, have that fire burning in the pit of your heart. But I think it's, again, this is just my belief system. I think you'll ultimately be more successful. You'll be more passionate about telling your story. You'll be, you know, less likely to make compromises, less likely to take on the wrong clients, more likely to land the right clients if you feel truly passionately about what you're doing. And, you know, if you're kind of at that inflection point where you're not really sure, I don't know how many people are going through that, but you will go through that at times. You know, why am I doing this? You know, I'm killing myself. You know, take a moment to remember why it is you went out on your own. Why didn't you go with a partner? Why did you decide to do it on your own? Why this business as opposed to any other business? And you'd be surprised at the things that you'll rediscover and the different ways in which you may tell your story based on that. Holly, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say a couple things. One is I sort of link passion and authenticity in many ways. So when I think about entrepreneurs being able to hire people and gain clients, often it's because of that passion that people are attracted to the business or attracted to your offering or attracted to you as a hirer. So I think the hard part is that if you don't feel it, and you can only fake it for so long, and then not only are you unhappy, but it ends up taking its toll in the business. So I'm not sure that's going to personally inspire you in your current situation, but I do think either there's a different way to be more inspired or passionate or excited about it, or you'll find, or maybe one of these networking events will inspire you to think about it in a different way, or to think about a different, maybe there's a different sector of law or a different sector in general that would be more exciting. But I think it's difficult. You know, when I was in sales and I was selling something I wasn't that excited about, it was really hard to win. And when I got excited about things, it's contagious. I mean, it's contagious. Even just the energy in this room is contagious. But I think it's easier to do all the hard things when you're authentically excited about it.
Let me say something. For the last 2-3 years, I was just trying to discover my passion, as I just wanted to become economically independent also. But in that pursuit, I just wanted to be happy also. And besides being like always a learner, multi-talented, I always dabble in various fields like art and craft, painting, singing, or learning, reading books, or whatever. I think what people educating. But suddenly I found myself helping people, and I was happy. And then I realized that I need money to do that, so that even to help them out, I need money. So that I have to earn money. And myself, I have to become independent. So that's where the social entrepreneurship idea came from. In a way where I could help myself out, create a business out of it, and in a way grow, like, you know, create that and make myself more happy and other.
Great, great. All right, I'm going to move quickly through the last couple of slides because Sridevi's telling me we only have a few minutes left. I'll just touch on this briefly. So ideation and how to come up with ideas. So it's exactly what you're all doing here. There are organizations, there are networking opportunities, there are mentors, mentees, university, friends, family, community. So lots of different sources of opportunity and ways for inspiration. And you just talked a little bit about social good. You know, and really thinking about, you know, what do you want to accomplish with the business? You know, there are people who go into a particular business because they want to create a lifestyle for themselves and their families. There are other people who go into a particular line of business because they want to make an impact on the world, or they want to do social impact or social good in the community, or they want to help other people grow their businesses, you know, by investing in deserving businesses. So, you know, in addition to, I'm standing awfully close to that. In addition to thinking about, you know, who you can brainstorm with and thinking about the opportunity itself, you know, think about your why, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. The only thing I want to say about this slide, and the reason why I included it, is because I really think ideation and opportunity assessment is a continuum. It's a cycle. It's not a point in time. So you're constantly looking, new ideas, ways to expand, new markets you can go into, new ways to position yourself. So think about opportunity assessment and ideation as a continuum, not as a destination or one single point in time. I was going to put this out there as a question, but I'll just, you know, since we're light on time, just talk a little bit about the window of opportunity. So the window of opportunity is the time period in which a new firm can realistically enter into the marketplace. You don't need to be first. We talked today about, you know, not needing to reinvent the wheel, and if there are other businesses out there in your community or elsewhere. Google was not the first in the search business. They just did it better than anyone else. Facebook was not the first social network. They just did it better than anyone else. So, you know, some people here have very original, interesting ideas. Other people are improving upon someone else's idea. There's absolutely nothing wrong with either approach. And many times businesses are a combination of each. You know, you may take leadership lessons or marketing lessons or, you know, some other idea from some other company, but maybe the idea is yours. Or maybe you're improving upon and you're seeing an opportunity in the marketplace where somebody is, you know, Uber and Lyft are a good example. I mean, Uber absolutely invented the market that they're in. I mean, so the fact that, you know, their Uberization is now a term, but Lyft is, you know, has been up and coming, and they saw a market opportunity to, you know, be in the business and approach it very differently from the way that Uber has approached it. And many drivers have, you know, worked with both Lyft and Uber, but there are some, it's almost like the Microsoft, Apple situation, right? Because they're, you know, people who are Lyft drivers are extremely passionate about that brand. And they believe that they're, you know, that they're the superior brand. So you don't necessarily have to be first in the market to be successful. You don't even have to necessarily be the market leader. When is an idea an opportunity? So you all know this, and we'll be working on some of this, especially as we get to the SWOT analysis later today. You know, are you creating new value or adding value to a customer? Are you solving a significant problem, removing an irritant or a pain point, or meeting a demand in the marketplace? Is there a market? Doesn't necessarily have to be a robust market, but it's pretty good if there is a robust market. Can you make money, you know, and can you market it effectively? And then, you know, back to some of the points we were just talking about a few minutes ago, is it a good fit for you? And do you have the right management place at the right time and the right place? I'm not sure what happened to that slide, but we're gonna talk a little bit about SWOT analysis, how to differentiate yourself in some of those concepts later. So I'm gonna skip over that one. So, you know, what we hope that you will do out of our discussion and take away from this, you know, lots of ideas out there, you know, but you need to have the idea and you need to be able to execute it. Nothing wrong with having lots of ideas, you know, and some you'll be able to execute well, some you may not be able to execute well. But the one that will, you know, take off for you is, you know, is the one that you'll be able to execute, and whether that's something that you can execute yourself, or whether you can surround people that can help you execute that idea, you know, that's really key once you've identified your opportunity. And to that point, we'll be talking a little bit about business planning, implementation planning later in the workshop, and really getting down to brass tacks. There'll be a lot of homework. It'll be fun there. And then lastly, in terms of leaving you with a model to work with in terms of opportunity recognition, you know, in addition to all the things we just talked about, you know, opportunity recognition is a function of your education and experience. If your mind wasn't keen to those opportunities in the marketplace, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have gone out on your own. It's a risky thing that we've all done, right? You know, it's in some ways easier to go and, you know, work for someone else, but I think not nearly as rewarding. So it's a risk that we've all taken here. So you've all, you know, experienced that entrepreneurial alertness where you've just seen something in the marketplace, sensed an opportunity, and just knew you had to go for it. Your networks. Holly talked a little bit about this earlier, and me as an introvert, networking is always hard. So I always try and find some common ground. And the way that I've managed my network is looking for people who, yeah, I'm not sure if they'll be able to help me or not in my career, but sometimes you just have a feeling, a connection, a chemistry with someone, and as Holly said, you have lunch, you ask them about their business, they tell you about yours, theirs, talk about how you might be able to help each other. There are certain people in my life that are not, you know, necessarily helpful to me right now, but I know that they're going to be an important person at some point in the future, so I make sure that I keep in touch with those people. That could be someone that was a boss, a mentor. I met a CEO of a billion-dollar biotech a couple of years ago. I met him when we landed a big piece of business at my last agency. And he just sold his company for some gazillion dollars. And at the moment, I don't have anything in particular in common with him, but I just have a feeling he's going to be a good contact for me in my career. So I make sure I reach out to him about once a quarter and just ask him for a piece of advice. I just pick his brain. Hey, I'm about to go into this new market, or I'm about to hire a new managing director, or you know, what's your experience with that? When I got on the hospital board, you know, as a CEO of a big company, he had a lot of experience in dealing with boards. So I called him and I said, hey, could I pick your brain for 20 minutes? Would love to know what you as a CEO look for in board members. And people are always willing to share their expertise. You don't need to call and be pitching your business all the time. You know, they know what you do and they know who you are. You'll know when the moment is to say, hey, is there someone that you know that could benefit from my services? Or is there someone that you could introduce me to? Or hey, I'm trying to get into this new market, who can I talk to? But if you've developed a relationship with those people in advance, it's, you know, obviously helps. So networks are key, and one of the most difficult things for women to do. And then obviously, you know, the result of all that is you've identified an opportunity and you have great success in your business. Thoughts and questions? Everybody's anxious to get to the break. So I'll just leave you with, this is the co-founder of Cloudflare, Michelle Zatlin. People don't take opportunities because the timing is bad. Too many people are overanalyzing. Sometimes you just have to go for it. So I'll just leave you with that and look forward to working with you all for the rest of the workshop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It'll make it come to life a little bit easier, and you don't need to see more slides. So again, this is a strategic view of the business, a look both internally and externally. So I thought I'd bring an example, and actually I would really love, especially people who haven't been as vocal, for you guys to jump in and make this a little bit more interactive, get us through. My jet lag's sitting in a little bit, so I just need to get us through the break. I get a little caffeine in me. So the example I'm going to talk about is one of the companies that I mentor in Philadelphia. The company is a woman in an area outside of Center City that is open to your own businesses or your own thoughts. So what I think about, so the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we can go through those one by one. So a strength, hopefully it's pretty obvious. It could be your brand. It could be you know, people's you know, interest in your work, interest in your products, how much of those products you're selling, any other thoughts.